Greetings, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Attaining the Second Cognition. I'm Endall Beall. The topic of this discussion is the two definitions of ego. There's a lot of point-counterpoint arguments going on in reference to what the word ego means. A lot of people say, well, you have to have your ego, and they become highly resistant when we talk about what we do in reference to shutting down the ego influenced by the Hapim virus. This is a naturally warranted circumstance. I love writing my books because research always leads me to new discoveries. In researching the psychology of becoming human, I've had to dig into some ancient history again, which is always a fascinating subject if you have the right eye to interpret what you're reading. What I discovered through this research in this book that's almost completed is that there are two definitions of ego. The first one is what most people presume it to be. It's your waking consciousness. It's the consciousness that navigates you through the 3D world and basically guides you on how to live your life in that respect. The other aspect of ego, the other definition, is what we refer to as the false ego, or the Hapim virus overlay, which serves to program the waking consciousness. In doing the research into the Becoming Human book, I had to look into ancient Hinduism. And it is in ancient Hinduism where I found this definitive difference between the two definitions of ego. When we talk about ego in our work, we are talking about the overlaid false ego of the Hapim virus, what has moved into our waking state consciousness and overridden that consciousness with all of its illusionary beliefs. Looking into ancient Hinduism, the ego that they are trying to overcome in all of their spiritual ideologies, which has been adopted wholesale into theosophy in the New Age, is the waking self. The doctrines of the virus were designed to put the waking self to sleep, to put it out of business, so the false ego of the Hapim virus could come to the fore and rule your consciousness. So when you are looking at modern corrupted institutionalized Buddhism, when you're looking into the theosophical ideologies of adapted Hinduism, the ego that they want to overcome is your waking state consciousness. Everything is designed in these Hindu ideologies to destroy or override your waking state, your clarity state of conscious awareness, your functional ego, and replace it with the ego of the hive. They often used drugs in order to loosen this hold of the waking state so the Hapim virus false ego could take over. This is what happens when people have traumas like near-death experiences. The conscious waking state is handicapped through trauma of one form or another, near-death experience, tragic, traumatic accidents, whatever. Anything that will dislodge your waking state gives the Hapim false ego virus a chance to come forward and take over your consciousness. Now, in the near-death experience state, oftentimes one Hapim virus cell would insert itself into the traumatized human form and throw the old one out. And this is why you hear a lot of these stories about people's personalities changing after they come back from a near-death experience. If you do some research into NDEs, you will find that a lot of these people become spiritual doctrinaires, preaching all the love and light stuff that the hive wants everybody to believe and accept. This is indicative of one hive cell usurping another one and coming back to peddle the doctrine to further the Hapim hive agenda while it was still in business. In ancient Hindu Vedic tradition, they used to use drugs. This is referenced also in biblical context as pharmakia, which was associated with witchcraft and spell casting and things of that nature. All it takes is a little bit of research to dig this out. But with this alternative definition of the ego as the hive cell, which is what we are professing that people need to overcome and override and rid themselves of the habits of the infection, these ancient traditions wanted to destroy the waking consciousness, so all that would be left would be hive false ego consciousness. In the Vedic text, they talk about a drug called soma, and a lot of people, there's a lot of debate on it still to this day. And from my own research, based on the studies of others, there's a lot of them that talk about using mushrooms, different types of mushrooms to create hallucinogenic states, and that's what they say that the soma drug actually was. Based on what I know in my own research and how the hive cell could override your consciousness under a distressed state, whether it's an NDE or whether you're high on ayahuasca or DMT or LSD or magic mushrooms, I have a tendency to give credence to the idea that soma was in fact a hallucinogenic substance, most likely the psilocybin mushrooms. In India, they have this sacred cow tradition. The ancient Aryans were known as cow herders, and psilocybin mushroom grows in cow shit. It grows in the dark, and when the sun comes up, the mushrooms disappear. If you look at the Hindu traditions, soma had to be harvested at night, and this would fit the criteria for the psilocybin mushroom that grows in cow manure, and why it couldn't be harvested during the day, because the mushrooms grow at night. When the sun comes out, they disappear, they shrink back in, and then they'll grow again the next night. So when you put all the evidence together, you're looking at a psilocybin mushroom that grows in cow crap that is being harvested so they can use this juice from this drink, their sacred soma, to induce a psychedelic state in the individual, to loosen the waking consciousness, the waking ego's hold on reality, so the hive consciousness can move in and take over. This all translates into the modern 60s era drug culture and the crap pushed by Theosophy and Aldous Huxley and the Esalen Institute and things of that nature. This is why they propose altered ecstatic states of consciousness. When you take these drugs, or you wind up in a traumatic experience where your waking ego consciousness disconnects, then it would give the platform for the virus consciousness to step in and take over. This is the two definitions of ego: your clear awakened state or the false virus state of ego. And it is the false ego, the virus itself, that we advocate people overcoming, getting rid of its habits, getting rid of its programs. And all of this mystical stuff that they're pushing is designed to create that crisis state within the waking consciousness so the hive virus could flex its muscles and take over your mind. I wanted to elucidate this because most people don't know the difference in definition of what an ego is. They think it's all the same thing based on Freudian psychological nonsense. But when these mystical traditions talk about overcoming the ego, they're talking about killing your clear waking state consciousness. When we talk about getting rid of the ego, we're talking about ridding yourselves of the habits of this virus. So we thought we would put this out there to clarify it for people. The evidence is there if you want to do the study. And like everything else that they do in their world of illusion, they turn reality on its head. The mystical states pushed forward by the transpersonal psychologists and the New Agers and the Theosophists, the ecstatic state they're looking for, they're trying to put your conscious awareness, your waking ego awareness, to sleep long enough for the virus to take over with its fake ego. And maybe this definition will help clarify this ego issue for a lot of you that may be in conflict over, well, you got to have your ego. Well, no, you don't. we need to know the two definitions to know what we're talking about. And that's why I'm doing this video. I'm almost done with doing the rewrite on the psychology becoming human. I've got another one coming up that's going to be the last one. Hopefully I'll have to use reference material for to condense the reading audience of what we're talking about, called Gutting Mysticism, where I'm going to track this stuff from ancient Hinduism through Greek philosophy into Christianity, through the Renaissance era, the Age of Enlightenment, the secret societies. I'm going to tie it all together to show how it's been a consistent thread of mystical lies predicated on, in part, on what I just shared about this ego and what they've been trying to do with their drug-induced mystical experiences. So I hope everybody had decent holidays. Hope you didn't get snowed in. The weather wasn't too cold. Everybody had a safe time. And you know, we've been off the map, but we've been off the map out of necessity. I've been busy. We're still almost done with getting the fire starters edited so I can get that published, and Gemma's doing the last of her part on the toolbox, which I know a lot of people are waiting on. And I need to finish up the Soika Consciousness book. So we have a lot on our plates at the moment, but it's all coming to a fruition here, and those that have been waiting for a lot of this material, it's coming soon. You know, I hate to keep, sounding like I'm fluffing you off, but we're not. We just have a lot of irons in the fire, and plus we have holidays and families just like you guys do. So we wanted to clear up this ego stuff and provide it to you to hopefully give you some clarity on what's going on. As always, there's room in the comments section to ask questions. I can point you to certain reference material if you want. Some of this is covered in the Psychology of Becoming Human book, and the rest of it will be covered in the Gutting Mysticism book. So until next time, stay the course and don't give up on yourself.